Imagine, just for a second, that you are a seeker. You really value gaining knowledge quickly.
Right, because nobody wants to be totally overwhelmed by endless information.
Exactly. You hate that overwhelmed feeling. So how would you feel if someone just walked right up to you and handed you, like, a literal shortcut to the secrets of the universe?
Oh, wow. I mean, I'd be pretty skeptical.
Right. But imagine it's a single cheat sheet, and it claims to synthesize thousands of years of human wisdom into this one super clear, actionable roadmap. Would you take it?
I feel like you'd almost have to, just to see what it says.
Yeah, you would. Well, in June of 2010, an author named Shui Feng, and this was translated by Kinyu, claimed to have written exactly that.
It's a bold claim.
It really is. The text is titled Breaking Free from Chains and Embracing Freedom. And it doesn't just offer some vague philosophical musing.
No, it's much more structured than that.
It is. It provides this highly specific step-by-step manual for basically escaping the suffering of the mortal world to reach a state of, like, absolute, unconditional freedom.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading this text feels like picking up a mind-bending puzzle that promises to unlock the foundational code of reality itself.
It really does. And I mean, the scope of the author's ambition here is just massive. To even ground ourselves in the text's internal logic, we first have to understand the two contrasting realities it presents.
Right, the starting point and the destination.
Exactly. So the starting point, which is where you, me, and basically the rest of humanity currently reside, is defined as the kingdom of necessity.
Kingdom of necessity, got it.
Yeah. And in philosophical terms, necessity means you just don't have a choice. You are bound by the requirements of survival, social obligations, biological limits, and, well, inevitable suffering.
It's like the ultimate daily grind. You're just trapped in the requirements of being alive. Precisely. Now, the destination the text wants to guide us toward is called the kingdom of freedom. And this is a state entirely devoid of those constraints.
Totally free.
Right. The entire document is this rigorous, almost mechanical breakdown of how a human consciousness actually migrates from that realm of necessity into total freedom.
Okay, so before we get into the actual, like, mechanics of that migration, we really need to talk about where exactly we are migrating to.
Yeah, the destination itself is fascinating.
It is, because the author doesn't just describe a vague sense of inner peace. The text specifically uses the word heaven.
Right, but it doesn't stop there.
No, it layers in terminology from entirely different traditions. It calls it the celestial realm, Buddha's land, the other shore, and the kingdom of the greatest creator.
Which is a really striking blend of vocabularies right off the bat.
Yeah, it completely broke my understanding of traditional theology. But the craziest part is the claim about the actual nature of this heaven.
How so?
Well, it explicitly states that heaven is not this elusive dream or, some reward you get after you die. The author asserts that this heaven is a tangible reality being experienced right now.
What's fascinating here is how the text deliberately collapses the boundary between the physical and the psychological. The text actually points to a real-world community or concept called the second home.
Right, established by a group referred to as Lifechanyuan.
Exactly. And the author argues that the practitioners within Lifechanyuan aren't just, like, hoping for heaven someday. They are actively living in it right now.
That is just wild to me.
Yeah, by progressively following the roadmap laid out in the text, heaven ceases to be this mysterious illusion. It becomes an undeniable, lived reality. The facts, according to the author, speak louder than words. Heaven exists, and it's accessible right now.
That concept shifts the entire goalpost. Usually we think of heaven as a destination you only arrive at after you die.
Right. It's always placed in the afterlife.
But this reads more like a real-world beta test environment. Like, it's an incubator for an entirely new society. It creates this fascinating tension. Is heaven, according to this text, a physical place we are supposed to construct through our actions, or is it a psychological state of mind that kind of overlays our physical reality?
Well, in this framework, building the physical environment and cultivating the internal state are actually the exact same process.
Wait, the same process? How does that work?
You basically cannot have the second home without the consciousness of freedom.
Yeah.
And you cannot maintain the consciousness of freedom without manifesting it in your environment.
Oh, I see.
It is a continuous feedback loop.
Yeah.
Your internal reality directly dictates your external experience.
Which brings us to the obvious hurdle.
Yeah, the roadblocks.
If heaven is this tangible state that can be experienced and manifested right now in this life, why aren't we all just walking through the door?
That is the big question.
I was looking at what the author says is blocking us, and honestly, the categorization is wild. The text points to two massive obstacles, and it describes them as two great mountains standing in our way.
Two very distinct mountains.
Yeah. The first mountain is called the Egypt of the Soul, and the second is the inevitable programs.
Let's examine the Egypt of the soul first. The terminology obviously invokes the biblical story of Exodus.
Right. Escaping bondage and slavery.
Exactly. But in this context, the bondage consists of mental and emotional impurities. The text lists things like jealousy, comparison, resentment, arrogance, anger, possession, control, hatred, dogma, greed, laziness, and intentionality.
Okay, so if human existence is a computer operating system, the Egypt of the Soul makes complete sense to me as a list of malware.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. Of course, you want to delete the viruses in the system. Things like jealousy and anger are pretty universally recognized by almost every philosophy as negative traits that cause suffering.
Absolutely, they're the obvious bugs in the code.
But then we get to the second mountain, the inevitable programs. And this list includes marriage, family, ethnicity, nation, religion, political parties, basically the entire existing social order.
It's a huge escalation.
It is. It's demanding we uninstall our core default operating system. I mean, if you're listening to this on your commute right now, you're probably thinking, I love my family, I value my community. Why on earth would I want to delete them from my consciousness?
It sounds totally absurd at first glance.
It is incredibly jarring to view deeply human connections as chains that need to be broken. Like, how does that even make sense?
It is deeply counterintuitive, for sure. But you have to view it through the esoteric lens the author is using. The text states that the goal is to escape the three realms and transcend the five elements.
Okay, what does that actually mean in plain English?
Well, in Buddhist cosmology, the three realms, the realm of desire, the realm of form, and the realm of formlessness, encompass the entire cycle of reincarnation and worldly suffering.
Got it. So everything we know and experience.
Exactly. And the five elements are the foundational building blocks of physical reality. So, to transcend them means to step completely outside the architecture of the mortal universe.
So if you want to leave the building, you basically can't be chained to the furniture.
That's exactly it. Think about your computer analogy. A program, by definition in computer science, dictates a specific, inescapable output based on a set of inputs.
Right, it runs a script.
Yeah, so if you are running the family program or the nation program, you are bound by the rules of the kingdom of necessity. A family program forces you to prioritize certain humans over others.
Oh, I see.
A nation program forces you to divide the globe into us and them. Your identity remains completely tethered to the mortal world's survival mechanics.
So you're stuck.
Yes, true. Absolute freedom in this framework cannot exist if there is even a single tether left. You cannot hold onto the anchors of the mortal world and expect to float into the celestial realm.
Man, I see the logical consistency, even if the reality of it is terrifying. I mean, if I delete my family program and my nation program, my conventional identity is completely erased.
You're starting from absolute zero.
Yeah. How do I even function day to day if my reality is entirely scrubbed? The text seems to anticipate this panic, though, because it immediately pivots to the actual mechanism of how we survive this transition.
Right, the how-to of it all.
It argues that scaling these mountains isn't about physically running away to a cave. It all comes down to the mechanics of consciousness.
The author actually writes, "The three realms are but mind, and all laws are but consciousness."
Which is a huge statement.
It is. It's a foundational assertion of idealism. The idea that reality itself is simply the projection of consciousness. Therefore, escaping the kingdom of necessity isn't about physical travel at all. It is entirely a matter of altering the projector.
That projector metaphor is so perfect. Like, if my life right now is the movie playing on the theater screen, my inevitable programs, like my career and my family, are the film strip. And my consciousness is the light bulb shining through it. Trying to change my reality without changing my consciousness is like walking up to the movie screen with a marker and trying to draw a happier ending over the moving images.
It's completely pointless.
Exactly. And the text is ruthless about this. It says that without enlightenment, without changing the projector itself, effort is just useless. You remain in darkness and you will never reach heaven no matter how hard you practice.
Because the physical actions are totally secondary to the cognitive shift.
Right.
If you physically abandon your family but mentally still crave their validation, you are still running the program. You haven't transcended anything. You've literally just changed your geographic location. The required shift is a fundamental rewriting of how your mind constructs reality.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because this is where the text hands us an impossibly tall order. It doesn't just vaguely say, be enlightened.
No, it is hyper-specific.
It provides a staggering curriculum for what changing this projector entails. It demands deep contemplation and an understanding of 20 parallel worlds, 36-dimensional spaces, and the essence of time and space.
It's quite the reading list.
That's putting it mildly. You have to understand the origins of the universe, life, and humanity, your exact place in the cosmos, the meaning of life, and the scientific principles of reincarnation.
Yeah, it basically reads like a curriculum for a cosmic university.
But wait, let's actually dig into that list for a second because it sounds like straight-up sci-fi. Why 36 dimensions? How does understanding multidimensional spaces physically alter my consciousness enough to break my family program?
Well, think about it as an exercise in perspective shifting. If you only perceive reality in 3 dimensions and linear time, you are essentially trapped in a maze.
Okay, I'm with you.
You only see the walls immediately in front of you. So every dead end feels like a total catastrophe, and every relationship feels like a permanent, isolated absolute. But if your consciousness can genuinely comprehend 36-dimensional space and 20 parallel worlds,
You are suddenly looking at the maze from above.
exactly, you see the whole architecture. You see that your current physical incarnation, your current family, your current nation, it's just one microscopic data point in an infinitely vast, multidimensional matrix.
Oh, wow. That really reframes it.
Yeah, by forcing the mind to grapple with parallel worlds and the scientific principles of reincarnation, the author is providing a cognitive mechanism to shatter the illusion of necessity.
Because none of it feels necessary anymore.
Right. If you deeply internalize that you have lived thousands of lives and thousands of worlds, the gripping, desperate attachment to your current societal identity just naturally dissolves. The dimensions aren't just trivia. They're the sledgehammer used to smash the inevitable programs.
Okay, viewing the maze from above makes the mechanism super clear. But practically speaking, this brings us to a massive glaring problem.
The time crunch.
Yes, I have a biological clock. I have to buy groceries. The sheer volume of processing power required to truly internalize 36 dimensions and the origins of the universe. I mean, how is any normal human being supposed to achieve this in a single lifetime? It's mathematically impossible.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author actually explicitly acknowledges this exact bottleneck.
Oh, he does?
Yes, the text states that achieving this level of enlightenment through solitary personal effort is nearly impossible for the average person. Life is just too short, and our time and energy are entirely consumed by the very kingdom of necessity we are trying to escape.
Right. You cannot master the multiverse from scratch while working a 9-to-5 job.
Exactly.
Which feels like a setup, honestly. We're given this impossible mountain to climb, a reading list that spans the entire cosmos and a ticking clock. But this is exactly where the author introduces his value proposition, isn't it?
It is.
The problem of having too little time is precisely what Sui Feng claims to have solved. He essentially says, the good news is that you no longer need to spend immense time and energy mastering these sources individually. I have already done this for you.
He claims to have done the heavy lifting of cosmic synthesis.
Yeah, all the heavy lifting.
According to the text, enlightenment requires drawing from the collective wisdom of humanity. This means integrating the insights of sages, saints, and enlightened beings. The text specifically names Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, and Mohammed, and then crucially adds modern scientists to that list.
I really want to pause on that combination because synthesizing Buddha and modern science isn't just like putting 2 books next to each other on a shelf.
No, it's a massive conceptual leap.
It's taking the spiritual realization of emptiness, the idea that nothing has inherent independent existence, and mapping it directly onto quantum mechanics and string theory. And Shui Fen claims to have woven these massive, disparate frameworks into the unified teachings of Lifechanyuan.
He says centuries of exploration are basically summarized into an actionable roadmap.
Right. If we go back to our projector metaphor, he isn't just handing us a summary of the movie. He claims to be handing us the exact engineering schematic to rebuild our projector lens, using the combined parts of Jesus, Buddha, and Einstein.
It is an audacious claim of absolute efficiency. The text frames this synthesis as a blessing from the greatest creator and a product of cosmic providence.
But he also says it's practical, right?
Yes, it assures the reader that this isn't purely theoretical philosophy. It claims this specific synthesis has been subjected to rigorous practical tests, which have proven the values to be correct, realistic, and practicable for actually experiencing the second home.
But, and this is a big but, The author pairs this grand offering with a remarkably aggressive warning.
He really does not hold back.
Not at all. If you look at this validated system with its synthesis of the greatest minds in history and you still have doubts, the text does not mince words. It says you are akin to ignorant, unchangeable deadwood.
Deadwood.
Yeah. You are beyond help, destined to endlessly reincarnate and suffer within the programs of the kingdom of necessity.
The rhetoric definitely shifts there. It goes from philosophical instruction to an urgent, almost combative ultimatum. The author is essentially standing on a bridge over a burning building, screaming, "I have built the bridge, I have tested the bridge. If you refuse to cross it to argue about the architecture, you are choosing to burn."
Wow, yeah.
The insult of deadwood is used to signify someone who is so rigid, so attached to their intellectual pride or their current programs that they just cannot absorb the water of new wisdom.
Ignorant, unchangeable deadwood is such an intense rhetorical slap. But, I have to push back on the author's logic here for a second.
Go for it.
Doesn't accepting someone else's shortcut inherently contradict the nature of personal enlightenment? Like, if escaping the maze requires my consciousness to actively expand to comprehend 36 dimensions, can I really just read Srifeng's summary and say, cool, I've got it?
I see what you mean.
Doesn't relying on his synthesis bypass the actual cognitive expansion the text just said was totally mandatory?
Well, the author would likely argue that you are confusing the vehicle with the destination. The synthesis is not meant to replace your personal realization. It is meant to catalyze it.
Like a spark.
Exactly. Think of it like mathematics. You could spend your entire life trying to invent calculus from scratch, and you would probably die before you figured out the area under a curve.
Very true.
Or a teacher can just hand you the synthesized formulas of Newton and Leibniz. Handing you a formula doesn't mean you bypass learning math. It means you can actually start building rocket ships instead of drawing circles in the dirt.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
The text argues that trusting this roadmap saves the seeker immense time, allowing them to actually experience the kingdom of freedom rather than spending their entire short life endlessly preparing for it.
So the shortcut isn't doing the push-ups for you. It's giving you the optimal workout routine so you don't waste years lifting the wrong weights. But still, with language as harsh as unchangeable deadwood, directed at anyone who doubts the routine. I mean, the system sounds incredibly rigid. When a text claims to hold the unified secrets of the universe and insults non-believers, historical precedent tells us we're usually looking at the birth of a dogmatic cult.
It definitely raises some red flags.
Right. It sounds like an absolute truth that demands blind submission. But just as I was bracing for that rigid drop-off, the text introduces a caveat that completely subverts expectations.
Yeah, in the final sections, the text displays a level of self-awareness that is actually the most intellectually rigorous part of the entire document.
I was so surprised by this part.
It asks a direct rhetorical question to the reader. Does this mean that Lifechanyuan's theory and practice are absolutely perfect and the only correct path? And the author answers, not necessarily.
Which is astonishing. After just telling me I'm deadwood if I doubt the system, he admits the system might not be perfect.
The text clarifies that, given the current evolutionary state of humanity, these values are merely relatively comprehensive and rational.
So they are working with what they have.
Yes, it openly acknowledges that to strive for actual perfection, the community must continue refining their theoretical understanding and validating it through ongoing real-world practice.
And crucially, the author issues a stern warning to his own followers. He tells them they must maintain an open mind. They must actively embrace new ideas, new perspectives, and new methods.
It's a huge shift in tone.
It is. And here's the line that really cemented the philosophical depth of this text for me. The author warns them to remain eternally vigilant against turning Lifechanyuan into a new form of religion, or allowing it to devolve into ideological authoritarianism or dictatorship.
It is a profound safeguard built directly into the foundational code.
So what does this all mean? Look at the tension here. How do you build a highly specific roadmap that requires abandoning your family and your nation, claims to hold the synthesized secrets of Jesus and quantum mechanics, calls doubters deadwood, and yet actively warns against authoritarianism?
It's quite the paradox.
It's like building a heavily fortified, highly exclusive walled city, but demanding the front gates be left wide open. How do those two realities coexist?
This raises an important question. They coexist because the author fundamentally understands the insidious nature of the inevitable programs.
Ah, right, the operating system.
Yes. If we synthesize this apparent contradiction, the text is revealing a foundational truth about freedom. The kingdom of freedom cannot, by its very definition, be reached through dictatorship or dogma.
Because dogma is just another program.
Exactly. If Lifechanyuan became an authoritarian religion with rigid, unquestionable rules, it would instantly cease to be a vehicle for liberation. It would just become another inevitable program. It would become another mountain in the kingdom of necessity.
That makes perfect sense.
The warning against dictatorship shows a genuine philosophical desire to break the chains entirely, rather than just trading an old set of chains for a shiny new set.
They recognize that the very boat they built to cross the river could easily become a cage if they decide to worship the boat instead of stepping off onto the other shore. It's a very delicate balance.
It really is. This text is a masterclass in ambitious, radical spiritual engineering. To quickly reorient ourselves on this incredibly dense journey, the goal is to leave the suffering of the kingdom of necessity and enter the tangible, lived reality of the kingdom of freedom.
Right.
To do this, we have to rewrite our consciousness to conquer two massive mountains: the mental viruses of the Egypt of the soul and the core operating system of our societal inevitable programs.
And we use a shortcut to do it.
Right. Because we lack the cosmic time to figure out the 36 dimensions of reality ourselves, we utilize the synthesized shortcut of Lifechanyuan. We treat it as an accelerator for our consciousness, all while fiercely guarding against the trap of turning that roadmap into dogmatic religion.
It is a sweeping vision of human potential. It requires systematically shedding absolutely everything that makes us familiar to ourselves, all in pursuit of an ultimate, boundless state of being. It asks us to look at the very fabric of our lives and recognize the threads that bind us. And that is exactly where I want to leave this with you, listening right now. Think about your own daily grind, your own reality, through the uncompromising lens of this text.
It's a challenging exercise.
It really is. Reflect on your own inevitable programs and your own Egypt of the soul. Which societal defaults, your career trajectory, your national identity, your designated family roles, or which mental habits like your quiet resentments or your desperate need to control outcomes do you feel are keeping you chained to your own kingdom of necessity?
We all have them.
We do. What are the default programs running in the background of your consciousness that you have simply never thought to question?
Identifying those programs and realizing that they are running you rather than you running them is the necessary first step, regardless of what cosmic roadmap you choose to follow.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. It builds on the ultimate demand of this text. If reaching true unconditional freedom requires transcending absolutely all earthly attachments, your family, your nationality, your religion, and even your own intentionality, does a perfectly free human still experience what we consider a human life?
Or do they become something else entirely?
Exactly. In successfully breaking all those chains and stepping outside the maze, what do you become? Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.